أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله أوله بلا أول كان قبل وآخره بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعليه الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الدائم على أعدائهم وغاصبي حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ومناقبهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. We extend our condolences to the Imam of our time for these days of martyrdom of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn and the Ashab and the Awlad of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Especially tonight, we extend our condolences to the Imam of our time because there's a special relationship with the 12th Imam and Abul Fazl Abbas. When we look at the narratives in relation to the Rajat, in relation to the appearance of the Imam, the reappearance of the Imam, and the people who will come back to life to support the Imam, apart from those who will be alive and supporting the Imam. But there are certain personalities who've been mentioned in the course of history or in narratives that they will return back to life. And this is one of the key Shi'i concept, which is Rajat, which is not seen in any other schools of thought. It's purely based on the Quran. The Shi'i thoughts, their ideology and the principles are based on the Quran and Sunnah of Rasulullah. And this is seen in the story of Ashab-e Kahf, which is actually Rajat. People have gone and they slept and then they came back to life and they went back to sleep again till the reappearance of the 12th Imam. So it's a very Quranic principle, Quranic concept. Same as, for example, we spoke about the intellectual maturity and the Imam at the age of young age. That's also a Quranic concept. Isa alayhi salam was still a baby and he pronounced that he is Nabi. So if you have an Imam who's 6 years old, when Isa is just a few days old, he is pronouncing his Nabi. So it's Allah who appoints. So these are the Quranic concepts that we have. And from a theological perspective, it could be challenged, argued, and critically revisited. In any case, so today being the day of Imam Zaman, which is Friday. And also we happen to commemorate the Shahadat of Abul Fazl Abbas. So there's a relationship of Hazrat Abbas and Imam Zaman. And also they say that when the Masaib of Hazrat Abbas is recited, Imam Zaman attends that majlis. He is present in that majlis that is recited. So we dedicate our gathering tonight to Abul Fazl Abbas and we connect ourselves to the Babul Hawaij, to the door of Hajat being granted and given through Abul Fazl. Now, in order to look at his maqam and his status, he is well known among the Ahl Sunnah as well, and to be strong. And recently I was visiting one of the northern African countries and the guide was there and we were speaking in Arabic. He asked my name. I said Abbas. I said, "Oh, Abbas ibn Ali." And then he asked me, he was an Arabic teacher. So he asked me, what's the meaning of Abbas? I went to the root word of it, comes from Abasa, Abbas, Abasa. There's a surah as well in the Quran which talks about Abasa wa Tawalla, that surah. So I mentioned it's about Abasa, it comes from there. He said, no, Abbas means lion, Asad. And he was a great fighter. He was strong. I was a bit shocked because northern African countries like Morocco, Tunisia, Shiaism is not that sort of well known and encouraged. But he was like interesting to express these things that he was so strong. He would sit on a horse, his feet will touch the ground, and all very similar narrations that we share and we have. So Abbas comes from that Asad, that lion, right? He was very strong, very powerful. And not only in the physique or in his, chivalry or physical aspect, but even in terms of his manaviyat, his intellectuality, was on a level that one cannot imagine. Where the sixth Imam, inshallah, when you all have gone for ziyarat, and may Allah give you more opportunity to visit Abul Fazl Abbas and Karbala, Imam Husayn, in the ziyarat nama that you recite, because all of this ziyarat that we have comes from Masumin alayhi salam. Adab of ziyarat and what to recite comes from our Masumin. 6th Imam, 5th Imam, Imam Hadi, different Imams have mentioned that this is how you should address them. This is how you should recite ziyarat of the Masumin. In the ziyarat of Abul Fazl Abbas, the ziyarat begins with Salamullah ala Abdus Saleh. It's the salam of Allah on you, O Abbas. Imam is not saying Assalamu alayka. Later on, yes, the beginning of ziyarat is Salamullah. Then it goes to Assalamu alayka ya Abdus Saleh al-Muti'u lillahi wa li rasulih. It goes. But the first line in that ziyarat name, when you recite, inshallah, when you go, pay attention as well again, inshallah. You say Salamullah, which is actually Imam Sadiq is saying, who am I to give you salam? It is Allah giving you salam, O Abbas. That is Abbas. Salamullah upon you, O Abbas. The most perfect of salam that comes from Allah. And we mentioned that, Allah is salam, was salam ilayki yaudu. Wa ilayhi salam wa ilayka yaudu salam. Allah is salam and salam comes from Him and salam returns back to Him. So Hazrat Abbas was of that caliber, of that level. Why of that level? Because we find two major akhlaqi traits in his character. Two major. This two major results into a phenomena. What are these two major traits? One is Isar and the other is Wafa. Isar means selflessness. That a person have nothing, or a person have nothing, but still whatever that person have gives. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ وَمِسْكِينًا وَأَسِيرًا. Surah Dahar. That the Ahl Bayt, Amirul Mu'mineen, Bibi Fatima, Hassan and Hussein and Fizza, they were all fasting. As they were fasting, the time of iftar comes, whatever little they had. Yatim comes, an orphan comes to the door, he said, I'm hungry. All of the Ahl Bayt, Bibi Fatima, Imam Hassan, Imam Husayn, and even Fizza, they all gave the food which they have cooked for the yatim. And they slept empty belly, empty stomach. This is Isar. Whatever they have, even although they need that, but still they give away. They don't really think of themselves. Selflessness. Second day the same, third day the same. We know the whole story of Surah Dahar and those ayah came. And the Ahl Bayt, alayhimus salam, they have this quality of Isar. They say Imam Hassan and Mushtaba alayhi salam gave away whatsoever he had in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many times, 2 times or 3 times. Like he has everything, all possession, property, house, camels. He gave away everything, leaving nothing for himself. Like no penny, no pence, zero in the way of Allah. That is Isar. Not everyone is able to do that. And as a matter of fact, it may not be recommended to do that either. One have to be of that caliber, one's soul should be of that level to do that. If by hearing these riwayat and hadith and I think, oh, this is so good, and I give away whatever I have, then I will face trouble. When I face trouble, I'll be saying, Ya Allah, मैं तो Allah के नाम पे दे दिया, मुझे क्या मिल रहा है? I need this, I need that right now, I'm in trouble right now. And I don't have anything. Well, I have given in the way of Allah and I have nothing now. And we complain to Allah. I complain to Allah for not having. Because Allah, you said if you give, it will be multiplied and all that. But practically speaking, when I have given, I don't have. But if a person is of that level, of that caliber, the nafs is that strong, then the possibility of maintaining that or having this quality of isar, of selflessness is possible. Abul Fazl Abbas had that. Because he goes to Furat, water is Farawan, is full of water there. But he did isar, selflessness. He could have drank the water. But just because Imam Husayn is thirsty, the children of Imam Husayn is thirsty, he showed and he reflected and manifested that isar, that selflessness. He did not think of his nafs, but he was thinking of the Ahl Bayt Imam Husayn. This is one of the very special quality of awliya. Awliya are on that level. Masumeen, imams are on that level. And then we find somebody who is on that level is Abul Fazl Abbas. And the other thing is wafa, fulfilling the vow and paying the allegiance. He believed in the imamat of the imam. He believed him to be the imam, the wali. He believed in that wilayat. Whatever he says, that's why what do we recite? Abdus Saleh Mu'ti'u illahi wa li Rasulih. Right? He is an Abdus Saleh who is in full of obedience to Allah, lillah, wa li Rasulih, wa lil Amirul Mu'mineen, to Amirul Mu'mineen and the Aimma, to the Imamat. Whatever the Imam says, that's it. Whatever he asks Imam, he's asking Abul Fazl Abbas not to go fight. Although he wants to, although that's his field. They say that Umar Asad on the 9th night, most of the time, they spend in order to plan what will happen when Abbas comes to fight. What strategy we're gonna be having if Abbas comes to fight. Because they knew Abul Fazl Abbas. You all know the story of Siffin and the whale, and they thought it was Ali who's fighting, and he unveils himself, it was Abbas. He used 2 horses, to fight, and the way he fought, right? So he was on that level in terms of chivalry, in terms of courage, in terms of strength. And he wanted to show that and protect the Imam. But Imam Husayn said, Abbas, no. You're going to go fetch water. You're not going to fight. Whatever the Imam say is wafa. He fulfills that vow that he has given to the Imam. And as we said, Inna al-Husayn Misbahul Huda wa Safina Nijat. Imam Husayn's Safina, the ark of Imam Husayn, which we are all in, is an ark which makes us reach perfection, maqsad, goal and purpose of our life. Whosoever enters this ark the same way. Inni tarikum fikum al-thaqalain, right? Kitab Allah wa itrati and itrati are like the ark of a Noah. Whosoever waman rakibaha wa yaghruqu man tarakaha al-mutaqaddimu lahum mariq wal lazimu lahum lala. In Surah Shaban we recite Salawat al-Shabaniyah. Whosoever enters this ark of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, they have nijat, they are protected. And whosoever leaves this ark, they will drown. So the same way, the Mizbah, the Safina of Husayn, whosoever joins, enters, they will reach that Kamal and perfection. As we said last night, Husayn from potentiality, when he was in Medina, from potentiality to actuality. Husayn had that potential of reaching to the highest level, which Rasulullah said, your maqam is something that nobody will. How it will happen? Through Karbala. So when he was in Medina, that was potential. But when he leaves Medina and goes to Karbala, he achieves that. That becomes actual. That becomes real. So Imam Husayn alayhi salam brings out the potential of every individual, every person who participate in the majalis of Imam Husayn, in attending, in serving. That's what we see. All in Karbala, in Arba'in. It brings out the best of insan. Husayn does that. Brings out the best. That's why you find everybody serving without even thinking isar. They don't have anything to eat. They don't eat meat for, themselves. But for the zawar of Imam Husayn, isar. Selflessness. Who is the champion of this? Who is the orchestrator of this? Who is the leader? Who is doing this tarbiyat to bring the best out of us? Is Husayn. Imam Husayn is doing that. And as we said, it's an eternal legacy. It's not only at that time. When Imam Husayn was there, he trained Fazlil Abbas to do the Isar and other ashab and friends. No, even today is the same. And it will be the same. So Imam Husayn is leading that. So if we sincerely join the Safina of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, we will bring out the potential that we have. Which is, what is our potential? Our potential is that we are Khalifatullah. We are Khalifatullah. Because Allah says that I have created man in the image of God. We are potentially Khalifatullah. But we have to actualize this. We have to bring this potential out and reach its kamal and perfection. And Husayn is key. He is the pivotal reality to make us reach that. That's why Allama Tabatabai, Sayyid Ali Qazi Tabatabai, they say that two things. Ziyarat Ashura, Ziyarat of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, and Quran. These are the two things by which a person reaches Kamal, and that Tawheed, that understanding, that Manaviyat, that vision is through Ziyarat Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Emphasis on Ziyarat of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. And Quran, these are the two things. Through this, one will reach that Kamal and perfection. Now, Ziyarat of Imam Husayn also is, as Allama Tabatabai would say, that we are unable to, as he was in Iran, we are unable to go there. When you go to the Majlis of Imam Husayn, it is Ziyarat of Imam Husayn. That's what we are doing. We are coming here for what? For the Ziyarat of Imam Husayn we are coming. Right? So this is, and that's why this farsh becomes the arsh. Jawad Amali, a great theosopher, may Allah protect him, prolong his life. He just finished his tafsir. It's a very famous tafsir. It's known as Tafsir al-Nasim. I don't know, 110 volumes, how much it is. 42 or 43 years or something. It took 40 or odd years for him to finish the tafsir of the Quran. Right. Jawadi Amali, apart from Mufassir Quran, he's a student of Allama Tabatabai, Jawadi, and Imam Khomeini and other great scholars. He says that Arshur Rahman al-Ma, the throne of Allah is on water. That's a hadith. That the throne of Allah is on water. He says, what is this water? This water is actually tears. Is the ashk, is the tears. In love of Allah, in fear of Allah, then that throne sits. It requires those tears in order to have that arsh. And these tears are being encouraged, are becoming, the Majlis of Imam Husayn is becoming the means to have these tears. That's why this Farsh-e-Aza takes us to the Arsh-e-Aza. Takes us to that Arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why so much of recommendation, so much of value in regards to the tear. A tear that is even equal to the wing of a mosquito. If it is shed in the love of Hussein, in the pain of Hussein, it will put off 70 years of hellfire. Or a person who cries, or a person who makes people cry in the love of Imam Hussein, in the Masaib that Imam Hussein went through, this individual's sins will be forgiven, of the past and of the future as well. So much of emphasis. So it is Imam Hussein who is making us reach that Kamal, that you want to call purification, Jannat, whatever, but as in reality, in the nutshell, is Tawheed. Is understanding and having that vision of Tawheed. That's why when it comes to Abul Fazl Abbas, he's on that top-notch level, where he's Abdus Saleh. That's what we refer him as. Abdus Saleh. First is Abd. What type of Abd? Somebody who is Saleh. First and foremost, Abd itself is a very powerful title, laqab. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself says that the most beautiful and beloved title for me is Abd. And it was so much loved by him, Allah said that, okay, I will make sure that this is in every prayers for your ummat. Abduhu wa Rasul. He loved it so much. And he's Habibullah. Right? So Abd is what? It comes from where? Abd is somebody who have made his life full of ubudiyat, of servitude, ubudiyat. That person becomes an Abd. As we discussed even last year, few examples we get. Abd means what? The reality of Abd is that he is nothing, which is the true reality of insan. Ya ayyuhal insan antumul fuqara ila Allah. Abd is somebody who is faqir, and that's the true reality of us. Just like how number 3 is an odd number or even number? It's an odd number. So the essentiality of number 3 is its oddness. A 3 cannot be other than odd. So an insan cannot be anything but Abd, is in true sense. We think that we are something, but we are nothing. Because Allah is saying that we are nothing. When we are nothing, we become everything. Because we reflect Allah. Because Rasul is what? Abd. That means he is nothing. When he is nothing, he becomes what? وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. Oh Prophet, you are not shooting because you are Abd. I am shooting. Allah becomes the hand. Allah becomes the feet. That's why Yadullah, Nafsullah, Ainullah, Wajhullah. Ali is nothing. Ali is reflecting who? Allah is. He has reached that level of purification. He has become that pure mirror of God, manifestation of God. He has reached to his true actuality from that potentiality. So here, Abd, first we are referring to Abul Fazl Abbas, that you are an Abd. But what type of Abd? Abdus Saleh is a quality given to Abul Fazl. A sifat is given to him, an attribute is given to him. An attribute of Saleh. Saleh comes from Sulh. Now, obviously, he's Abdus Saleh. Why he's Abdus Saleh as well? When we look at his character or his attribute as an Abdus Saleh, because of his action, he is muti, he is obedient to the Imam. Who is an Imam? Is Abba Saleh al-Mahdi. Abba Saleh and Abdus Saleh. There's a difference. Imam Zaman, what's the title of Imam Zaman? We call Abba Saleh. Right? So here, Abul Fazl Abbas, and obviously when we are saying Abba Saleh, it's a title of the Imam, but all Imams in terms of their status, station, maqam, they are all Imams. So even Imam Husayn is also Abba Saleh. Right? So here, Imam Abdus Saleh. What is Saleh? It comes from Sulh. Sulh. Sulh of what? Sulh of two reality that we have in us. We have the qalb and we have the aql. Compatibility of this both. When there is sulh, when there is compatibility, when they are working together, when they appreciate each other, when they are going in the same direction, because many a times our hearts want something else, our aql wants something else. But when both together, that person becomes saleh, that person becomes righteous. Why? For example, from a philosophy, this is from a mystical point of view, but from a philosophical point of view, there is aql nazari, there is a theoretical intellect, and there is aql amali, is a practical intellect. Aql amali is the action. Aql nazari is the intellectual understanding of things. Many a times, and many people, they have the intellectual capacity and understanding of higher realities. But when it comes to amal, they are sust, they are weak, they are lazy. But when both hand in hand go together, that person becomes righteous, saleh. That person is a saleh because he has the aql, intellect, and at the same time there is action. He is fulfilling that. From a irfani perspective, mystical perspective, you have the heart and you have the intellect. Jawad Amali mentions here, I think I have mentioned it earlier as well. We say there are two jihads, Jihad Akbar or Jihad Asghar. Jihad Akbar is the jihad which is outside warfare at the time of the Prophet. And the Jihad Asghar, they say, is the jihad of the desires and the nafs, that we fight our desires and nafs, which is going against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's Jihad Akbar. It's very difficult to fight that, right? When a person is outside, that one of the reasons why they call mihrab is because it is a place of harb, place of fighting. Because our heart in mihrab, when we start, is fighting. Different thoughts are coming from here, from there. We are fighting our thoughts. There's a jihad going on there to keep our focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a place of harb, it's a mihrab. It's a maqtal, place of qatl. Mihrab, place of harb. So you have Jihad Akbar and Jihad Asghar. Jihad Akbar is a fight of, as they say, is of the heart, of the desires. However, people who pay more attention to the subtle nature of the nafs-e-insan, of the soul of a man, they say actually there are three jihad. There is Jihad Akbar, which is the warfare, regular physical fight. There is jihad-e-awsat, which is the middle jihad, which is actually the jihad of the nafs. And then there is jihad-e-akbar, which is the third jihad, which is actually the jihad of the heart with the intellect. Because the intellect, according to the calculations, may not be able to comprehend certain things, because wahi is beyond intellect. The highest level that a wahi can reach, that a revelation can reach, is where the intellect begins. And the highest level is wahi ends there. Because Jibreel is known as the one who brings the Quran from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet. And Jibreel is considered to be the Aql Rasul. Jibreel is the Aql Rasul, because the Quran is nothing but intellectual, based on logic, whatnot, right? But at the same time, Jibreel reaches to a point and he says, I cannot go any further. وَقَانَ قَابِ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى. But what went further than that is the Qalb Rasul, is the heart of the Prophet that had gone. I think I mentioned this, that it says on the Day of Judgment, it's not Aql Salim, but it is Qalb Salim. Aman la munajat of Amirul Mu'mineen. Ata Allahu bi qalbin salim. That heart which Allah have made it salim, tranquil heart, not tranquil intellect. So there's always a battle between the qalb and the aql. For example, Imam Husayn's battle with taking his family members and fighting. The intellect would say, the aql will say, no, it's not. Why family? Why children? When you know that you are going to be killed. Right? The aql will say that. But the heart is saying something else. And that is in the ishq of Allah, in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The aql will say, oh Abbas, you went to the Furat. There's nothing wrong in having a sip of water. But the ishq of Abbas, the heart of Abbas would say, no, my master is thirsty. That is heart. From an intellectual, calculative, halal, haram perspective, there's nothing wrong. It's not haram for Abul Faz to have a sip of water. Some other fighter would even say that, no, I'm going to drink, because if I drink, I can fight better. We many a times bring our own reasons to do something we want to do, and then we bring reasons to do that, to satisfy ourselves, So Abul Faz could say that, but no. The qalb of Abbas, who sits in the qalb of Abbas? Husayn sits in the qalb of Abbas. He says, no, I'm not going to have that water. Right? So you have jihad-e-akbar, jihad-e-awsat, and jihad-e-asghar. Jihad-e-asghar is the jihad which is outside. No, physical jihad. This is where jihad-e-awsat is with the desires. And jihad-e-akbar is actually the fight between the heart and the intellect, which is much more subtle. So Abul Fazl Abbas was champion of all of these three, because he has synchronized his heart, just like how Imam Husayn, he has synchronized his heart and his aql together for that maqsad, for that purpose, which was tawheed. So when a person brings this quality of isar, selflessness, and wafa, who is obedient to the imam of the time, this person reaches to that maqam of Abdus Saleh. And why and how he's becoming Abdus Saleh? By these two qualities, towards who? Towards the imam. Towards the Imam Masum. Now look what Imam Masum does. As we said, that this Safina-e-Najat is taking us towards Kamal and perfection, bringing out from potential to actuality. So look what Imam Husayn does. Imam Husayn makes sure that from a worldly perspective, who is in the Safina of Husayn reaches Kamal and perfection. from a dunyavi point of view. And ukhrawi point of view as well. First look at from a dunyavi point of view. What do you think that the kamal or perfection or desire of Abbas is in the dunya? What does he want to possess? What does he want to have from a worldly, dunyavi perspective? What do you think? That he be given the opportunity to call Husayn brother. That's the kamal of Abbas. All his life. If I have a brother like Husayn and I don't call him brother, but I call him Agha, I call him master. I mean, it's a human nature. When we go outside somewhere, if we have somebody that we know who is a minister or famous individual or person, we say, oh, it to hamare rishtedar hai. You know, we would like to introduce, we like to say that is our family. So Abbas, for him, the highest level of from a dunyavi perspective that he would like to achieve and he would like to have is that Husayn, you are my brother. He would like to call Husayn brother, but he did not, because he is abd of Mawla. He cannot dare to do that. But Imam Husayn, as we said, is someone who makes the dunya of the individual perfect and kamal and make that person reach, and the akhirat as well. What did Husayn said? Abbas, all your life you have called me master. My desire is that you call me brother. Abbas अपने मकसद पे पहुंच गए. अपनी इताअत और अपनी ईसार और अपनी वफा जो चाहते थे अब्बास को हासिल हो गया आखिरी लम्हों में. कमाल अब्बास है. अब्बास उस कमाल की मंजिल पर फायज होना चाह रहे हैं कि मैं अपने हुसैन को भाई कह सकूं. And Imam Husayn made him do that. This was the reward Husayn gave. Husayn ने ये अता किया. This is from a dunyavi. Look at the ukhrawi. Where Abbas reached. What is his level? What is his kamal? What is his position? What is his station? That he becomes Ya Kashiful Karb an Wajhil Husayn. Ikshif Karbi bihaqqi Aqiq al Husayn. This is one of the very powerful zikr that the ulama says, which is related to Imam Husayn alayhi salam. He says, who is Kashiful Karb? Allah is Kashiful Karb. But we are addressing Abul Fazl Abbas as Kashiful Karb. We are saying, Ya Abbas, Ya Kashiful Karb. From who? An Wajhil Husayn. Not me and you. Our problems are little. Our problems are no problems. It's all in our head. But we are talking about, we are saying, Ya Kashiful Karb an Wajhil Husayn. The face of Husayn. The turmoils, the problems, the difficulty which Husayn is. He is the Kashiful Karb for that. That's why Imam Husayn says, when he hears the call of Abul Fazl Abbas, he says, my back is broken. He says, Abbas, I cannot see you. Everything has gone dark for me. It's a blackout. When he hears the call of Abul Fazl Abbas, the salutations and salams. He says, Abbas, you are the standard bearer. When we look at your alam, we get our iman and strength. And Abbas says that, where is that lashkar? Where is that army that I will be the standard bearer? All are shaheed. It was not easy for Abbas. So now Abbas, from the Manavi perspective, have reached to a point and kamal and perfection where he has become Kashiful Karb, where he has become Babul Hawaij, that we say, "Oh Abbas, for the sake of your brother, resolve my problems, because you have resolved problems of Hussein." How beautifully the poet have said, on the day of Ashura, everybody was saying Hussein. The sword was saying Hussein. The arrow was saying Hussein. The spear was saying Hussein. The friends were saying Hussein. The enemies were saying Hussein. The family members were saying Hussein. Everything was saying Hussein, because they all want Hussein. But what was Hussein saying? Hussein was saying Abbas. Abbas was the resolve, was the strength of Hussein. That's how strong he was. And because of his obedience, because of his isar, because of his wafa, worldly he reached that kamal and perfection. And from a manavi perspective, he becomes that kashiful karb. That is actually a maqam, it's a station, which is a reflection of the divine qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like as we said, we are all potential Khalifatullah. When we reach to the manzil kamal, to that perfection, when we become insan kamil, then we are true Khalifatullah. Then when we are abd in that sense, then we are reflecting the divine qualities of Allah. Kashif, as the same way as wama ramaita id ramait, O Rasul, when you're shooting, you're not shooting that arrow. Allah is shooting that arrow. When they give bayah on your hand, it is not your hand, it is the hand of Allah. Right? So Abbas have become Kashiful Karb, a pure annihilation, fana in the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That he becomes the door of giving. He becomes the one who resolves the problems and issues of even of awliya and Wajhul Hussein. This is actually, one may say in the margin, that how can that be possible, that Hussein is Hussein and Hussein's issues and problems is resolved through Abbas? How can that be possible? Well, Allah is Rahman, Allah is Rahim, Allah is Razzaq, Allah is Qahar. These are all different qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is no difference in those qualities. You cannot say that Rahman is more, Rahim is less, or Rahim is more, or Qahar or Adil is sort of more or less. They are all one. So when Abbas have reached that level of Kamal, there is no question of him being higher or Hussein being lower. It's just the manifestation of the reality of what that person is in that given time and space. Although Hussein is also Kashiful Karb. Just like as we were mentioning, if anybody was in the shoes of Imam Husayn, if Imam Raza or Imam Hadi was, they would have done the same thing. But Imam Husayn was given that opportunity, because of which he has achieved that maqam, that level where Rasulullah says, the maqam that you have, no one have. Right? It's the question of, like as we mentioned, that there is a generous person, very generous, but he did not get the opportunity to give. There's another person, also generous, but he got the opportunity to give. So obviously the one who got the opportunity to give, who have given, he will be rewarded for that what he is given. Although the other person is also generous, he will get the reward too. But the one who is given with some is on a different level. So on the same token, when we reflect in terms of the maqamat that these Anbiya and Awliya have, is fascinating. They are appreciating each other. It's not the question of, because we think in that way, That's why we say, Awwaluna Muhammad, Awsatuna Muhammad, Kulluna Muhammad. That's the principle, right? Like, something very similar here. And there's no restriction of time. It's not the question that, Imam Husayn is third Imam, so he should be greater than 11th Imam who came later, for example. The time is not there. Awwaluna Muhammad, Awsatuna Muhammad, Kulluna Muhammad. That's why they say that the title of Imam Rida alayhi salam, just mentioning in the margin, Imam Rida means that pleased, razi, comes from that. So if there be any sort of pleasure or mu'mineen being pleased with each other, brothers being pleased with each other, husband and wife being pleased with each other, Imam Raza is the one who plays that role. Because he's Rida. So that means even if there be Rasul being pleased with Ali, there is Riza there. Because there's no restriction of time there. We are talking about a journey of the soul and reaching to the level of Rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and becoming that. And appearing where there is Riza taking place. From that level. In any time and space. Whether in the past or in the future. Right? So Kashiful Karb is that because of that purification of Abul Fazl Abbas, he has reached to a point where he has become. They say if somebody have any hajat, they should recite Ya Kash 133 times for the getting of that hajat. And people have, it's a very mujarrab zikr to recite Ya Kashiful Karb and Wajhil Husayn Ikshif Karbi, the issues, the problems that I have, for the sake of your brother Hussein. हम इमाम हुसैन का वास्ता दे रहे हैं हज़रत अब्बास को, तो मुमकिन है कि हज़रत अब्बास हमारी हाजत नहीं दे जब हम उनके भाई का हम उन्हें वास्ता दे. It's not possible. Right? So Abul Faz, from the worldly perspective, because of his dedication, because of who he was and how he carried himself, how obedient he was to the Imam, reached that Kamal and perfection in the dunya and also in the Akhirah as well. And this is what is required of us as well. As we are in this Safina Nijat of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, if we are obedient to what Imam is asking from us, then Imam will make us reach that Kamal. And we taste this Kamal, those all of you who have gone to Karbala. Put your hand on your heart and say that Imam Husayn has not welcomed you when you had reached there. You have felt that as soon as you go to Imam Husayn, it's as if Imam Husayn is embracing you with his open arms. We feel it. The more obedient we are, the more our tawajjuh and focus is towards there, we feel that closeness on a greater level. Because that Isar and Wafa, if that is there. Karbala is something else. Like as we said, it's the meeting of heaven and earth and eternal, till eternity. It changes us completely. It purifies us. It becomes that standard, that alam, that criteria to live our life. And we are reminded over and over again. And tonight is the night of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, who, when asked to get some water, perhaps, they say, "Oh Abbas, if you want to go, fetch some water." The mother of Abul Fazl Abbas, Hazrat Baneen, belonged to the tribe of Bani Kilab, which was also the tribe of Shimr. Shimr also belonged to the same tribe. And as you know, among the Arabs, the tribalism and the tribes and the tribal etiquettes was very powerful, very rooted. Tribalism was very rooted. And Shimr came with a letter to provide safe haven, a safe passage for Hazrat Abbas to leave. Because Baneen belonged to the same tribe, so he wanted to show the tribal, favor towards the son of Baneen, towards the children of Baneen. All four were there. So that Hazrat Abbas this news came to Abul Fazl to Hazrat Abbas, and he was enraged. And then Imam Husayn says to Abbas, go speak to them. Well, he said, I can't even imagine of having that. Okay, go speak to them and tell them off. Basically tell them that you're not interested. So he says, if I don't go, that is enough. He said, no, you go and speak. Because Husayn is the orchestrator. Husayn is making every person reach his kamal, purifying it. He has to bring that sincerity out. He has to go see that he will be saved, the possibility is there, and then reject. Then only he will be able to reject the water, perhaps. Right? So Imam Husayn tried each and every individual, a Sahabi, children, family, tested them to purify their shahadat, their martyrdom, their blood. Because Husayn is planning for something very future. This tree which Husayn planted needs pure blood for it to grow till Qiyamah. That type of blood is required. So Husayn asked him to go. He comes and he rejects, and he comes back. Even gone to the life that close, still rejects. It was not possible at all, obviously, but still it's an imtihan, it's a test. That is of a greater value. So Imam Husayn says that, perhaps you may get some water. جنگ کی اجازت نہیں ملی. بچے پیاسے ہیں، عباس شاید کچھ پانی تم فراہم کرو. خود یہ ایک جس طرح سے ہم کنٹینیوسلی اس حقائق کو بتلاتے آ رہے ہیں کہ کربلا کے جو علائم یا شعائر ہے وہ کافی معنی رکھتے ہیں. پانی فراہم کون کر رہے ہیں؟ عباس. پانی حیات ہے. علم بردار کون ہے؟ عباس. علم جو ہے ایمان کی اور قدرت کی نشانی ہے. علم کسے؟ حضرت عباس کو یہ عہدہ دیا گیا ہے. اور یہاں پہ ابو الفضل عباس آتے ہیں قیام میں اور مشقیزہ لیتے ہیں. کہا گیا ہے کہ چھوٹے چھوٹے بچے زمین کو کھود کے اپنے پیٹ کو زمین پہ رکھ رہے تھے ٹھنڈک لینے کے لیے. کربلا کی زمین اتنی گرم تھی، پانی نہیں تھا. اور پھر وہ شخص کو جو وفادار ہو اور جو اپنے عہد اور جو اپنی پرومس جو کرتا ہے، جو وعدہ جو دیتا ہے، اس کے لیے بہت ہی اہم ہوتا ہے. میں آپ سے کوئی وعدہ دوں تو میرے لیے بہت اہم رکھتا ہے یہ وعدہ. تو یہاں پہ عباس سکینہ کو وعدہ دیتے ہیں کہ میں پانی لاؤں. کتنا نہیں سخت تھا عباس کے لیے. اسی لیے کہے وصیتوں میں سے ایک وصیت یہ تھی کہ میرا لاشا قیام میں لے جائے نہ جائے، کیونکہ میں شرمندہ ہوں، کیونکہ میں نے سکینہ سے وعدہ کیا تھا، بچوں سے وعدہ کیا تھا کہ میں پانی فراہم کروں، میں کرنے نہ پایا. تو وفا اور عہد جو عباس نے لی تھی، بچوں سے کہا کہ میں پانی ضرور لاؤں گا. اور پھر جنگ کے جب لیے نکلے ہیں، معمولاً کوئی سواری یا کوئی جنگجو، کوئی سوار جنگ کے لیے آتا ہے تو تلوار کا استعمال کرتا ہے، استفادہ کرتا ہے. روایت میں ملا ہے کہ حضرت عباس نے نیزے سے جو ہے جنگ کی ہے، کیونکہ ان کی نیت جنگ کرنے کی نہیں تھی. اگر جنگ کرنے آتے ہیں تو پھر تلوار استعمال کریں گے. اس طرح سے بعض روایتوں میں ملتا ہے. بہرحال کہا گیا ہے کہ عباس نے دشمنوں کی صفوں کو کاٹتے ہوئے خشک مشقیزہ لیے ہوئے فرات کے کنارے جا پہنچے، اور فرات کے کنارے جا پہنچ کر سواری سے اترے ہیں اور مشقیزہ بھرے ہیں. یعنی دشمنوں کو کافی دور چھوڑ دیا ہے جنگ کرتے ہوئے. آسان نہیں تھا عباس پہ قابو پانا. مشقیزہ بھرا اور پانی کو ہاتھ میں لیا اور کہنے لگے کہ اے نفس جا کسی اور کو دغا دے. یہ عباس ہے. کبھی باپ تاریخ میں کہا ہے کہ عباس بیٹا پانی نہ پینا. اون و محمد کی شہادت ہم نے بیان کی. کبھی ماں کہی ہے کہ اون و محمد فرات پہ جائیں گے نا لیکن پانی نہ پینا. یہاں پہ وہ بات یاد آئے ہوئیں گی عباس کو کہ جب امیر المومنین نے کہا تھا کہ عباس تم میرے بیٹے ہو، حسین فاطمہ کا بیٹا ہے، میں چاہتا ہوں کہ میں فخر کروں کہ عباس تم میرے بیٹے ہو. تو یہاں پہ عباس پانی چھوڑ دیا، پانی نہ پیا. اور پھر جب سوار ہو کر واپس جا رہے ہیں، ظاہر سی بات ہے جب فرات ہے وہاں پہ نخل بھی ہے. کہا گیا ہے کہ اس نخل کے پیچھے ایک شقی ترین شخص پیچھے تھا اور چھپ کر حضرت عباس کے سیدھے ہاتھ پہ وار کیا. شانہ پوری طرح بدن سے جدا ہو گیا. مشخیزے کو دائیں ہاتھ میں لیا عباس نے اور رجس پڑھنے لگے کہ کیا تم میرا سیدھا ہاتھ کاٹو گے تو میں اپنے دین کی اور اپنے امام کی حمایت کروں گا اپنے دامن سے. عباس آگے بڑھتے چلے گئے کیونکہ عباس کی توجہ یہ ہے کہ یہ پانی قیام میں پہنچ جائے. اور پھر جب آگے بڑھنے لگے تو دوسرا شانہ شہید کیا گیا حضرت عباس کا، اور اس پانی کو اپنے منہ میں لے لیا، منہ میں پکڑ لیا. اور جب آگے جا رہے ہیں تو تیروں کی بارش آ رہی ہے، اسی لیے کہا گیا ہے کہ عباس کے آنکھ میں بھی تیر پیوست ہو چکا تھا. اور جب عباس آگے جا رہے ہیں، کیا خوب کہا ہے شاعر نے کہ عباس کے جب شانے جدا ہوئے عباس کو پتہ نہ چلا، لیکن جب اس مشخیزے کو تیر لگا، برچی لگی اور پانی بہہ گیا، وہاں پہ عباس کو درد محسوس ہوا ہے. یہاں پہ عباس آسمان کی طرف دیکھتے ہیں اور آسمان سے آواز گونجتی ہے کہ عباس تیری حاجت پوری ہم نہ کر سکے لیکن تجھے باب الحوائج قیامت تک ہم نے بنایا. اور پھر اس کے بعد وہ خواب علامہ شستری کا، جب بی بی فاطمہ تشریف فرما ہوتی ہے اور علامہ سے کہتی ہے کہ تو میرے بیٹے کے مصائب نہیں پڑھتا. یہاں پہ علامہ کہتے ہیں میں پڑھتا ہوں. شمر سینے پہ ہے حسین کے، خنجر چاہتے کہ نہ میرے بیٹے کے مصائب. بیٹے کے مصائب آخر ہے کیا بی بی؟ ہر سوار جب گھوڑے سے گرا ہے زمین پر، اس کے ہاتھ تھے، اس کے ہاتھ سے وہ اپنے زمین پہ آتا تھا، اپنے آپ کو بچاتا تھا. لیکن جب میرا بیٹا عباس گھوڑی کی زین سے زمین پر آیا ہے، منہ کے بل زمین پر آیا ہے. روایت میں یہ بھی ہمیں ملتا ہے کہ قیامت کے دن بی بی عباس کے ہاتھ خدا کے پاس پیش کریں گی اور حکم مانگیں گی خداوند متعال سے. اور یہاں پہ جب عباس گھوڑے کی زین سے زمین پر آتے ہیں اور سلام دیتے ہیں، میرے آغا میرے مولا سلام، آخری سلام قبول ہو. یہاں پہ امام حسین علیہ السلام کہتے ہیں عباس میری کمر ٹوٹ گئی ہے، مجھے نظر نہیں آ رہا ہے. آہستہ آہستہ آگے بڑھتے چلے جاتے ہیں. حسین ایک دفعہ رک جاتے ہیں، گھوڑے کی زین سے نیچے آتے ہیں، دیکھتے ہیں کہ کیا ہے، آخر عباس کا شانہ اٹھاتے ہیں. پھر آگے بڑھتے ہیں، پھر رک جاتے ہیں، پھر دیکھتے ہیں آخر ہے کیا، دیکھتے ہیں کہ عباس کا دوسرا شانہ. پھر عباس کی لاش پہ پہنچتے ہیں. جب عباس کے پاس پہنچتے ہیں کچھ سانسیں باقی ہے. یہاں پہ عباس کا سر لے کے اپنے زانوں پہ رکھتے ہیں. عباس فوری اپنا سر ہٹا لیتے ہیں. کہتے ہیں کہ عباس ناراض ہو کہتے ہیں نہیں آغا میرے مولا، میں دیکھ رہا ہوں کچھ ہی گھنٹوں میں، کچھ ہی لمحوں میں آپ اس زمین پر ہوں گے اور آپ کا سر اس زمین پر ہوگا. آپ کے پاس کون ہوگا کہ اس طرح سے آپ کا سر جو ہے زانوں پہ رکھے. وفائے عباس، ایثار عباس یہ ہے. یہاں پہ عباس کہتے ہیں آغا میرے مولا میری کچھ وصیتیں ہیں، اسے آپ جو ہے بجا لے آئیے گا. میرا لاشا قیام میں نہیں لے جانا، میں نے بچوں سے وعدہ کیا تھا کہ میں پانی لاؤں گا، میرا لاشا یہیں پہ چھوڑ دینا. میرا علم ضرور لے جانا لیکن میرا لاشا نہیں لے جانا. یہاں پہ حسین کہتے ہیں میری بھی کچھ ایسی وصیت ہے بھیا، انہیں پورا کرو. تم تمام عمر مجھے آغا اور مجھے مولا کہہ کر پکارے ہو عباس، میں چاہتا ہوں کہ تم مجھے بھائی کہہ کر پکارو۔ یہاں پہ لکھا گیا ہے کہ عباس نے 3 مرتبہ بھائی اور بھائی اور بھائی کہہ کر پکارا، اور جان عباس کی نکل گئی۔ علم جو ہے خیمے میں گیا، وہ عباسہ کی صدائیں بلند ہو گئی، وفائے عباس اور ایثار عباس۔ یہ بھی دیکھ لیجئے کہ جب کوفے میں بیویوں کو لے جایا گیا تو لکھا گیا ہے کہ ایک سر ایسا تھا جو گھوڑے کی گردن میں تھا۔ جب پوچھا گیا آخر یہ کیوں ہے، کیونکہ جب اس سر کو نیزے پہ لگایا جاتا تھا تو بیویوں کے کھلے سر نظر آتے تھے اور یہ سر زمین پر گر جاتا تھا۔ اللہ لعنت اللہ علی قوم الظالمین۔ سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ماتم حسین۔